This is Nightline and I'm Adrian Seet. News making the headlines. Palm oil mission concludes on a high note, with the UK set to recognise MSPO. And government dismisses Sulu Air's latest demand for $16 billion. Thanks for joining us. Deputy Prime Minister Dato Sri Fadillah Yusof's official visit to the United Kingdom ended on a high note, as the policymakers of the country have given the commitment to recognise the Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil MSPO certification within the due diligence guidelines for ensuring that commodities entering the country are sustainable. Dato Sri Fadillah, who is also Plantation and Commodities Minister, said the good news will open up more business opportunities between Malaysia and the UK. TV3's correspondent Haliza Hashim reports from London.
According to Datuk Sri Fadillah, the commitment from the UK was transpired during his meetings with Minister of State for International Trade, Nigel Huddleston, and Minister of State for International Development, Andrew Mitchell, on Thursday.
Actually very positive. In fact, mereka dah memberi komitmen bahawa even MSPO kita akan menjadi sebahagian daripada dokumen yang akan diiktiraf dalam proses due diligence. Akan berpaksikan kepada undang-undang yang kita buat sendiri. Sebab maknanya mereka mengiktiraf apa sahaja undang-undang dan peraturan.
He also welcomed the UK's accession in the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, of which Malaysia is a member. Malaysia has negotiated with the UK to eliminate the tariffs on Malaysian palm oil from the current 12% to zero upon UK's entry into the trade pact. Summarising on Malaysia and Indonesia's joint mission under the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries, CPOPC, to the European Union, EU, Datuk Sri Fadillah said there will be continuous engagements with the EU. On Friday, Datuk Sri Fadillah delivered a keynote address at the International Sustainable Palm Oil Forum, titled Sustainable Trade and Responsible Business Practice in a New Global Era. While in London, he also met members of the UK Parliament and businessmen to share Malaysia's commitment to the conservation and sustainability of palm oil.
At the end of his trip, Deputy Prime Minister said Malaysia is serious in dealing with any issues regarding discriminations against palm oil, whether it's movement against palm oil, whether it's EU trade bloc or negative media reports. He said the fight to defend the country's palm oil industry continues. Haliza Hashim, TV3, London.
The Attorney General's Chambers, AGC, has dismissed all claims made by the legal counsel of the self-proclaimed descendants of the last Sultan of Sulu in their latest demand against the Malaysian government. It also pointed out that the claims mentioned in a letter dated May 28th that was received by the AGC on Monday had inaccurately defamed the government's conduct. The AGC said in a statement on Saturday that the allegations made by the Sulu Air's legal counsel, Paul H. Cohen, were false and a clear, blatant disregard for the inescapable true facts of the claims, which will create a false written record to be eventually used against Malaysia. The AGC also stated that considering legal proceedings were still ongoing, it was also outrageous for the claimants to demand the purported final award. In the letter, Cohen had demanded the immediate payment of the final award, which amounts to $16.4 billion, including 10% interest, along with over $3.5 million in lawyer fees and more than $4 million in arbitration expenses before June the 2nd. The letter also alleged that the government had purposely failed to comply with the purported final award. The AGC said it responded to the letter on May 31st and lodged a police report against Cohen the following day for the unfair statement and the allegation he made against the Attorney General. It also said that the government will continue to take all the necessary measures, including legal action, to put an end to the claims by the so-called Sulu heirs and ensure Malaysia's interests and sovereignty are protected. Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim has called for every city in the country to have a comprehensive development plan to uplift the welfare and economic status of those in the lower income groups. The Prime Minister said unlike previous administrations which spent billions of ringgit on mega projects, the unity government led by him is more concerned about the well-being of the majority of the people. According to Dato Sri Anwar, although there were many small businesses and hawker stalls throughout the country, the allocations for such businesses were proportionately smaller than the funds allocated for big projects.
Tapi kita nak juga kemudahan bagi rakyat terbanyak. Dan rakyat terbanyak yang hadir umpamanya tak pergi ke hotel 5 bintang atau 6 bintang. Tak pergi ke restoran-restoran besar. Ya. Jadi oleh itu, kita sebagai bertanggungjawab dalam kerajaan sama penjawat awam, Tok Bandar, Kuala Lumpur dan kawan-kawan yang disuarakan oleh ahli parlimen kita, apa dia? Iaitu berikan kemudahan kepada masyarakat terbanyak.
He said this when opening the Di Anjong Selera Madani food court at Bandar Tun Razak in Kuala Lumpur on Saturday. Dato Sri Anwar also urged all state governments and local authorities to formulate clear policies and plans to facilitate efforts to upgrade and beautify food courts and stalls nationwide.
Ini harus berlaku di semua kota-kota di negara kita. Saya tak mahu ini hanya khas di Kuala Lumpur. Saya bincang dengan beberapa menteri besar dan ketua menteri bahawa di semua kota, di Petaling Jaya, di Shah Alam, di Kelang, di Pulau Pinang, di Ipoh, di Kuantan, Kota Baru, Alostar ni susah sikit berkuning tapi kita cuba. Mesti ada dasar yang jelas.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister said he was satisfied with the program implemented by the Kuala Lumpur City Hall DBKL, which focused on hawker stalls in the federal capital, as it was in line with his aim to give the capital city a new facelift. Deputy Prime Minister Dato Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi on Saturday said a cordial relationship between the federal and state governments were important for the country's development. He also said that the stability of the unity government and the implementation of Malaysia Madani concept must be given priority because there was important was the progress and welfare of the people.
Apatah lagi jika kerajaan negeri itu sentiasa bersama-sama dengan kerajaan pusat, maka kerajaan pusat pasti akan terus menyalurkan peruntukan melebihi daripada apa yang sepatutnya diperolehi oleh negeri itu. Inilah yang dilakukan oleh Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim sebagai Perdana Menteri.
Dato Sri Ahmad Zahid said this in his speech during the 2023 Gawai Open House at Dewan Suara Kapit in Sarawak on Saturday. The Deputy Prime Minister, who is also the Rural and Regional Development Minister, added that the good ties between both federal and state governments would also ensure smooth implementation of the development programs in the respective states. Action will be taken against anyone spreading false information about the Pulau Pinang-Kedah border. Communications and Digital Minister Fahmi Fadzil said that everyone must accept the status of Pulau Pinang as enshrined in the Federal Constitution, adding that he has been made to understand that a police report has been lodged on the matter.
Selagi mana ia termaktub dalam perlembagaan, semua pihak wajib akur dengan kedudukan seperti itu. Dan sekiranya ada mana-mana pihak yang cuba mengambil kesempatan, maka pihak berkuasa akan mengambil tindakan sudah pasti untuk menyiasat dan mengekang daripada maklumat yang palsu tersebar di kalangan rakyat.
Fahmi said this at a media conference after the Madani Community pre-launch ceremony in Tasik Gelugo, Pulau Pinang on Saturday. He said the police are free to investigate under any act, while the Attorney General can decide whether to press charges through whichever law necessary. Previously, Kedah Menteri Besar Dato Sri Muhammad Sanusi Mat Noor made a remark that Kedah and Pulau Pinang do not have a border because Pulau Pinang still belongs to Kedah. The issue of staff shortage involving the Health Ministry, MOH, is being scrutinized according to the requirements of vacancies for positions such as doctors and nurses. Its Minister, Dr. Zaliha Mustafa, said her ministry is also looking at employee placement so that there will not be an excess of staff in government hospitals and clinics.
Ialah kalau kita tengok pun memang masalah kekurangan petugas ni bukan satu yang tetap kepada satu buah hospital. Secara keseluruhannya memang kita kenal pasti ada kekurangan. Tapi itu kita KKM sendiri tengah sedang meneliti dan kita pun dah ada buat mapping tentang keperluan doktor dan ada juga mungkin keadaan yang kita lihat bukan hakiki kekurangannya tetapi ia adalah mengenai distribusi petugas termasuklah doktor, nurses dan sebagainya lah.
Dr. Zaliha said this to the media after the Type 7 Health Clinic project handover ceremony at the Mata Air Health Clinic in Machang, Kelantan on Saturday. She was responding to media reports recently that the Johor Health Department was facing a shortage of 2,800 healthcare personnel, especially doctors and nurses. The minister also said that the MOH will address the concerns of assistant medical officers regarding contract positions by offering them an extension of their contracts for 1 more year. She added that there is also the possibility of absorbing them into permanent positions if there are any vacancies. Hundreds killed over India's worst rail disaster. This and more from the Foreign Front right after this short break.
Jom sambut ulang.
Welcome back. At least 288 people have been killed and 1,000 others were injured in a crash involving 3 trains in India's eastern Odisha state. Officials said several carriages from the Shalimar-Chennai Coromandel Express derailed at about 7 p.m. local time in the Balasore district, hit a stationary goods train and several of its coaches ended up on the opposite track. Another train, the Howrah Superfast Express travelling from Yavaspur to Howrah, then hit the overturned carriages. The force with which the trains collided has resulted in several coaches being crushed and mangled. More than 200 ambulances and hundreds of doctors, nurses and rescue personnel were sent to the scene. It was the 3rd deadliest crash in the history of Indian railways. Meanwhile, Indian Railway Minister Ashwin Vaishnaw announced that a high-level committee has been established to hold an inquiry into the incident.
एक high-level committee भी already declare हो गई है, जो कि इस पूरे accident में inquiry करेगी. Commissioner Rail Safety को भी बुलाया गया है, वो भी inquiry करेंगे और इस problem के, इस accident के root cause में जाएंगे किस कारण से ये प्रॉब्लम हुई, वो पूरा का पूरा टेक्निकल से और किस भी कारण से हुई हो, वो समझा जाएगा.
The minister added the official cause of the accident will be known after the Commissioner of Railway Safety, Shri Shailesh Pathak, submits his report. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has taken the oath of office for a new 5-year presidential term, extending his rule into a third decade. The 69-year-old leader is due to unveil his new cabinet late on Saturday, with local media speculating that former Finance Minister Mehmet Simsek could return. The new cabinet will be tasked with handling an economic crisis that has witnessed runaway inflation and the collapse of the lira. Saturday's inauguration in Parliament was followed by a lavish ceremony at the presidential palace in the capital Ankara, attended by high-level officials from 78 countries and international organizations. Erdogan won the May 28th runoff against a powerful opposition coalition, despite an economic crisis and severe criticism following a devastating February earthquake that killed more than 50,000 people. A man was killed and at least 3 people were unaccounted for after heavy rain pounded wide areas of Japan, with the weather agency warning of an increased risk of landslides and flooding of rivers in eastern Japan, including Tokyo. Thunderstorms were observed developing in succession from Friday through Saturday morning in western and central prefectures, causing concentrated heavy rainfall. The severe weather conditions were caused by warm and moist air blowing from Typhoon Mawa that was passing south of the country. Rising rivers prompted some local governments to issue the most severe flood warning to residents, calling on them to immediately move to safer ground. Two women have been stabbed to death in a Hong Kong mall on Friday in a frenzied and apparently random attack that has shocked a city where violent crime is rare. Now, authorities said the 2 women, aged 22 and 26, suffered multiple wounds in the attack and were declared dead after being taken to the United Christian Hospital. The incident took place around 5 p.m. local time at the Plaza Hollywood Mall in Diamond Hill, where the attacker was seen going up to the pair before repeatedly stabbing one of them. The second woman attempted to intervene several times, but was also attacked. According to authorities, the attacker, now in custody, purchased the 12-inch knife in the same mall 10 minutes before the attack. It remains unclear whether the attacker knew the 2 women, but police have now classified the case as murder. Selangor suffers a shocking defeat. Super League when we come back. On to sports. Football. The 2023 Super League. 3 more matches took place on Saturday night. Perak FC suffered another defeat, this time 3-0 to Terengganu FC, while Selangor were humbled by PDRM FC 1-0. At the Bandaraya Stadium, a goal each from Corbin Ong and Fernando Forestieri gave Johor Darul Takzim a 2-0 win over Penang FC. Corbin gave JDT the lead after 18 minutes before Forestieri sealed the win for the leaders 5 minutes before the final whistle. With the win, JDT strengthened their grip at the top of the standings with 39 points, 9 points above second place Selangor. Moving on to tennis, the 2023 French Open. World number 1, Carlos Alcaraz, eased into the second round of 16 stage with a comprehensive straight sets victory over 26 seed Denis Shapovalov. Alcaraz enjoyed a bright start, claiming the first set 6-1. Shapovalov tried to bounce back, but the top-seeded Alcaraz was at his best as he sealed a slot in the round of 16 with a 6-4, 6-2 win in the next 2 sets. Joining him was former world number 1 Novak Djokovic. The third-seeded Serbian overcame a resilient display from Spanish 29th seed Alejandro Davidovich Fokina with a hard-fought straight sets 7-6, 7-6, 6-2 victory. Also in the round of 16 was Stefanos Tsitsipas. The fifth-seeded Greek continued his fine form at Roland Garros to beat Diego Schwartzman 6-2, 6-2, 6-3. In the women's event, Alina Svitolina came from behind to beat Anna Blinkova in 3 sets in the third round. Losing the first set 2-6, Svitolina clawed her way into the game to take the next 2 sets 6-2, 7-5 and a ticket into the next round. Earlier, Arina Sabalenka claimed a quick win over Kamila Rakimova 6-2, 6-2 to advance to the second week of Roland Garros for the first time in her career. Sabalenka, who won her first major title at this year's Australian Open, improved to 10-0 at this year's Grand Slam events. Still to come, 2 killed in motorcycle accident. Stay with us. Welcome back. Retailers are reminded not to hoard sugar supply or impose conditions on buyers as stern action can be taken against them. Deputy Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Fuzia Saleh gave the warning as the ministry had received complaints about such activities in Kedah and Perak.
Apa saja aduan yang kita terima, kita siasat ya. Sebab ini salah dan saya ingin ingatkan kepada semua peruncit jangan buat. Sebab kalau sekiranya didapati bersalah ya, kerana gula barang kawalan. Kalau didapati bersalah, kita boleh ambil tindakan tegas.
Fauzia said this to the media after the handing over ceremony of Rahmah Aid to 300 recipients in Kuantan, Pahang on Saturday. She was commenting on media reports about a trader in Alostar who was selling sugar to customers on a conditional basis, while another trader in Taiping was found hoarding 156 kilograms of coarse white sugar. Both activities can be subject to action under the Control of Supplies Act. The ministry also assured that the supply of sugar in the domestic market is sufficient and its current pricing is maintained. The Royal Malaysian Police, PDRM, have completed their probe on the alleged insult of the Royal Institution by former Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Its Secretary Dato' Nursiah Muhammad Saaduddin said the investigation papers will be referred to the Attorney General's Chambers, AGC, on Tuesday, in line with the provision under Article 145(3) of the Federal Constitution. In a statement on Saturday, she also revealed that police investigations into the Malay proclamation issue involving Tun Dr. Mahathir is still at the preliminary stage. She added that police will also be recording statements from past President Tan Sri Abdul Hadi Awang and Pulau Pinang's second Deputy Chief Minister Dr. P. Ramasamy. On Friday, it was reported that police had recorded Tun Dr. Mahathir's statement following his remarks on the Royal Institution as well as the Malay proclamation issue. The remand order against an accounting assistant from the South Kelantan Development Authority, Kesedah, who was detained on the suspicion of misappropriating funds amounting to 24.8 million ringgit from the agency, has been extended for another 7 days. Gua Musang District Police Chief Superintendent Sik Chun Fu said the extension beginning Saturday was granted to facilitate police investigation into the case after the 37-year-old man's initial remand had ended on Friday. According to Sik, the probe is being conducted under the Penal Code for criminal breach of trust. The suspect was previously arrested on May 27th at his home in Bandar Utama, Gua Musang, after authorities received a report over the alleged embezzlement by the civil servant. In the report, Kesedah claimed that the government's money in two funds, handled by the agency's finance division, went missing between December 2016 to May 2023. Initial investigation showed that the suspect had transferred the money into his bank account through 194 transactions and had misused the identities of 9 individuals working in the agency. In Pahang, a motorcyclist and his pillion rider were killed after their vehicle was hit by a car in Kuantan on Saturday. Both deceased were identified as 58-year-old Yusuf Ibrahim and 61-year-old Ismail Jaafar. It was believed that the incident at about 7:52 a.m. occurred when the motorcyclist suddenly switched lanes from the left to the right at Jalan Pintasan, Kuantan, Pelabuhan. An oncoming car, however, failed to avoid crashing into the two-wheeler in time, causing both men to be flung onto the road and killing them on the spot. Kuantan Police Chief ACP 1 Muhammad Zahari Wan Busu said the 32-year-old car driver sustained chest injuries and is currently receiving medical treatment. The bodies of the two victims were later brought to the Tengku Ampuan Afzan Hospital for post-mortem. The case is being investigated under the Road Transport Act. And that concludes Nightline this time around. As we wrap up, let's take a look at the world's largest predatory dinosaur, making its debut in Chicago, Illinois this weekend with a 46-foot-long cast of a Spinosaurus suspending high above the museum's main hall. With that, I'm Adrian Seet. Thank you for watching and stay safe, Malaysia.